What is going on, Mandalorian fans? Welcome back to Apocaflix Movies and the Fandalorian Club. We are the Fandalorian Club, and yes, I remember to unmute everybody today.
We did it.
It is Brian, it is Gio, it is Jacob. I am Jake Berlin, and yes, the Fandalorian Club. We're the penultimate episode of the Fandalorian Club for this season. We have just a few left here on this season of Fando. And we have quite a bit to talk about in the coming weeks. But before we get to that, how's everybody doing today on this Friday afternoon? It's the weekend, gentlemen.
Thank God.
Happy Friday, everybody.
Pretty good.
Jacob's like, fuck you guys. I got work after this.
Yeah, the weekend isn't the weekend for me, but we got football in like less than 48 hours, I think.
Stop plugging your stuff.
Hey, I'm not talking about anything.
Yeah.
Plug it all you want. It's fine. Yes, so we got an episode of The Mandalorian to talk today. We have Chapter 15, Episode 7 of Season 2, titled The Believer. This is the penultimate episode of the season. We have just one more episode to go before this season is officially wrapped up, and we're going to get to it because we have some cool things to talk about. I'm very interested. I think out of all of the episodes we've talked about so far this year, this is the one I'm most interested in hearing everybody's thoughts on, because you could honestly really go extreme one way or extreme the other, depending on how you feel about it. I know Brian and I talked about it last night, but I know my thoughts have changed a little bit. I haven't talked to him since, so I don't know where his thoughts are at the moment. Let's just start it off with some initial reactions. A couple sentences on how you feel, your immediate reaction, if it's changed or not. And Jacob, I'll go and start with you.
Okay, I'm glad you started with me, actually, because I want to get my thoughts out of the way and then hear what you guys have to say.
G'day.
I understand. I would understand why somebody wouldn't like this episode, but I love this episode, to be honest.
Nice.
Halfway through, I was like, this episode's okay. But by the end, I loved it. And I'll tell you what, whereas I liked Bill Burr in the season 1, I loved him in this episode. And I loved his character. They went deep on that. And I didn't expect that. I thought he was going to be similar to how he was last season, just only there for comedic relief. And I feel like they toned him down a little bit. And they gave him a legit story arc. And I loved that. And I thought the action was awesome. So there's a lot more to dive into. But overall, I honestly really enjoyed this episode. It's disappointing in a sense to where like it's the penultimate episode and it didn't feel like it. But just as an episode on its own, I really loved it.
Gio.
Yeah.
We saw your text, but put that into form for review.
Okay, so not much happened in this episode, right? But for some reason, I could not wait until we talked about this episode because of some of the moments that happened during this episode. Like, it was just wow. And there was one moment that really took me back to the prequels. One of the best action sequences we'll get to. But Bill Burr absolutely made this episode for me. And it's surprising, but it's not surprising. I'll tell you why it's not surprising. It's because you guys know, and there's been many examples of this, but comedic actors, they make really good dramatic actors when they want to. Steve Carell, Jim Carrey, etc. And Bill Burr is another example.
Adam Sandler,
yeah, absolutely. But in one moment, one scene, Bill Burr his character completely changed, and it made me want to see more of his character going forward. Like I tweeted out, like, please find a way to bring him back in season 3. Because Bill Burr for me has just been that good, and the episode was fantastic. I really enjoyed the action, especially when there was action, and lots to talk about.
Stacy says here, I thought this episode was amazing. Bill Burr's acting and it was superb, and it showed how far Mando was willing to get Grogu back, which is very true. And that is something that we will definitely get to.
I will say, real quick, Bill Burr was in The King of Staten Island, which was a really good movie, and he was a dramatic actor in it. by the way, he was pretty good.
And there you
I
go.
have to watch it now. I have to watch.
Brian, how about you? I'm interested in you the most because we did talk a little bit last night. Have your opinions changed at all?
Yeah, a little bit. When we watched it originally, I went definitely a filler episode. Like when we first watched it, I was like, that to me was the definition of a filler episode. What more did they do other than just get the code so he can threaten Gideon? So I don't know why I wanted to call him Grand Moff Gideon, and I was like,
Just call him Moff. Just call him Moff.
I know. I was in my brain was literally going, that's not right. But it's slowly starting to grow on me a little bit more. I'm not fully out of the filler, but I would say I'm majority out of it now. The more and more I'm seeing what people are saying, I'm kind of like, oh, okay, I understand what you're saying with that. Like, oh, okay. I did, however, really like Bill Burr a lot more in this one. I think the one that he was in, honestly, it might have been the other characters that dragged his character down. The more that I think about it, because to me, he was like the best part of this whole episode. Like Gio said, I was legitimately like, oh crap, like I kind of want to see him some more now. But yeah, initial thought, I was like, no. Now I'm kind of like, okay, well, it wasn't that bad. It was pretty good. It wasn't like I've seen people say the best episode of the season. And I'm like, what are you on? But teach their own. What?
Nothing. Just the way that you said it.
So were you guys disappointed initially?
We watched it at midnight. It came out at midnight, our time, and we popped it on, and I felt like I had this certain expectation for this episode because
you were hyped for this one.
It very much felt like they were kind of doing a 3-part finale in a way, where they set it up in the previous episode with Robert Rodriguez's episode, Grogu gets taken, and then I'm like, okay, well, they're gonna do something this episode that has a good connective piece to it, very much like they did last year in season 1, where episode 7 and 8 were essentially one big episode. 7 ended with the bar being blown to smithereens and Moff Gideon showing up. Like that's how the episode had ended, and then it went right into episode 8. Mm-hmm. So I had this kind of expectation to it that is 100% on me, because nothing was revealed about it. Obviously, it was just my personal expectation. So when I was watching it, I'm thinking to myself, well, if they're just getting the code, like, the episode is kind of pointless. Like I love that Mayfield is back, and I agree with everybody. I think that I'll even go to an extent to say that he almost feels like a completely different character. It's like a completely different shift for the character for me on how he is. Mm-hmm. But I just feel like when I watched it the first time, I didn't feel any connective tissue between the previous episode and what could happen next. It very much felt like a side mission that's not going to have any kind of impact on what's going to come. But I watched it a second time about 2 hours ago, and my thoughts have definitely changed on that. And Jacob, you had said something that there's a certain part in the episode where the episode kind of like switches gears a little bit and it turns into something different. The second they park the transport,
exactly,
the episode it gets really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
Really, really good.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't recognize that the first time because I was so frustrated with the fact that it felt so different from what we had seen recently and what we're going to get next. And it was just me in my own head. It was clearly just me in my own head, because there's a lot of things I do like in this episode that are also in the beginning. But there's also a lot of stuff near the end, or like the back half, that I think is really good and really important to what we could see here in this next episode.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. To me, look, we talk a lot about the perspective of the Empire, or showing us more of the Empire characters, and not all of them are just evil. A lot of them were either forced to join this military group, or they just thought that they were fighting for something good. And did you guys get this feeling like when the TIE fighters come in and save them, they like made it seem heroic? Like, because normally it's like the X-Wings coming in to save them, right? Yeah. But they played like this. Was it a new piece of music when that happened? It felt new.
Yeah, it might have been.
Like a piece of music they don't use a lot. They made it like heroic, and it all ties into the Bill Burr character and what he does at the end. So I thought that part, diving into the Empire, was what made it great.
I agree, and we'll definitely get there. Let's go ahead and start off with the opening sequence of this episode, and we start off by meeting Mayfeld right away. We see that he's a prisoner working on a junkyard, essentially breaking down scrap metal. We see TIE fighters and all kinds of crazy stuff. We see some cool transports. We also see that crane, the AT-AT crane again in the background, which we saw earlier this season in chapter 4 or episode 4, excuse me. And then we transfer after Cara Dune grabs Mayfeld. We get this cool sequence where we first see Boba Fett and his new digs, his freshly painted digs, obviously leading to the scene between Mayfeld and Din as well. How did you guys feel about this opening scene with Mayfeld, with Cara Dune, bringing him to the Slave One, and just that whole interaction and kind of how the episode starts off? Gio, I'll start with you.
Yeah, for me, the best part about that opening scene was when he's like, "Oh, I thought you were the other guy," and then he walks in right behind. I don't know. Does Mayfield know who Boba Fett is? Because I don't know if he'd say that still.
It doesn't seem like
probably
it.
Not.
Because it's like if you knew who Boba Fett was, you'd be like, "Oh my god, like double trouble," you know. But yeah, I mean, it's just. You're immediately, right into Bill Burr's comedic, timing. And I was a little bit thrown off by Boba Fett's armor looking so clean and nice.
Yeah, me too at first.
I was like, oh, okay. Like something to do on the ride to pick up the prisoner, I guess. But it looks great. Hey, it looks great. And it only got better as episode went on.
I want to see the paint shop inside the Slave One.
Yeah, exactly.
Brian, what about you? Opening sequence.
I would say this counts as the opening sequence. I loved seeing the fresh coat of paint. Like, that was dope. But it's funny because it's pretty slick.
And the rifle's clean.
Yeah. The thing that's funny to me, because one of the things that I've always wondered and wanted answered was answered to me, and that's how do the people inside Boba's shit not just fall over?
Yeah, I was thinking about that too.
And it showed the rotating inside, and I was like, I've always wanted to know that.
Finally got to see the Slave One inside the cockpit and everything. It was awesome.
Yeah. So, like, honestly, that was the best part for me, because, like, that is something since I was a kid I've gone, like, I wonder, like, how it does it. What's it do? Like, how does it turn? Like, I get Boba Fett's in his seat, so that makes sense. But, like, what about the other people and crap he's got towed in there? And to see it, I was just like, oh, that was a little dorky childhood thing that I've been wanting to know for a while. So that little tiny thing got me actually pretty excited. So, but yeah.
I like the opening scene too. I think it was really great. I love the interaction, and you feel a different Mayfeld right away. You kind of get that sense that he's a very different type of character. And to Brian's point earlier, it very much might be that those characters aren't around him. But yeah, you get a sense of Bill Burr's comedy right away. You get that idea. The interaction with Cara Dune was interesting. He was kind of like scared to go with her. And then Gio, you're right. That line of I thought you were someone else. And then he's just walking up behind him, and you hear the music pop up and everything. It's like, hey, Mando. And it's great. It was a great sequence. Nice little opening scene, because we're not going to get the opening scenes in the cockpit of the Razor Crest anymore. So they're kind of going to have to do something different for now on. And this was a great way to do that. Jacob, what about you? What do you think of this opener?
I thought it was cool. I mean, I like how they're showing us how the New Republic is operating. what else are you supposed to do with prisoners? I guess these are criminals that they've captured. So they either just leave them in a cell or put them to work. So I guess it's not like too harsh, but I think they're trying to show us that like maybe the New Republic's not like conquering planets and destroying planets and killing people, but they operate similarly to the Empire was. So I thought that was interesting to see like how they're putting prisoners to work. So it was cool. I liked it, to be honest.
From there, we go straight to well, not straight to. We learned some information from Mayfeld about his history and what has to be done for him to get this information, the coordinates of Moff Gideon. And I do not have the planet name on me for right now, but they go to a planet where there is a essentially an unknown Empire base where he has to get these coordinates from. He has to go in and get these coordinates from, and we see a sequence here which is really cool. We see this crew. We've got Mando and Boba here. Then we see the 5-man crew here, all on a ridge looking at the transport that they're going to steal. We see Cara Dune and Fennec as well. And it turns into this big, giant action sequence, right? We get this big, giant action sequence after Mayfeld and Din get inside this transport. Also, obviously, Din takes off his armor, puts on the Stormtrooper armor and the helmet as well. And then we get this really cool action sequence with the pirates with some really cool stuff with Din because he doesn't have his typical armor. So he's got to do some different things. But we get a new look at this fresh species, which I've never seen before personally. Really cool. And go ahead.
Did you say the planet's name?
No, I don't have it on me right now.
Morak,
that's what it is. Okay, thank you. Yeah, really the only big action scene of the episode, but it was long. It was detailed, and I know someone might mention this, but I know a lot of people online were saying it had a very Mad Max feel to it because it was a transport going down and we were kind of attacking a transport.
Yeah, not to make sense. I thought of a different movie when I was watching this.
Would you
Sorry, go finish your point.
Well, I was just going to say, not to the extent in high velocity of Mad Max, but the fact that it was an ongoing transport, they were attacking a transport, they had to fight on top of a transport. That's very Mad Max-ish, which is why I compared that.
Very road.
Yeah. It's funny because this whole part, I really got strong Star Trek vibes. Like, I don't know why. I think maybe because the aliens, like I got like the whole time I felt like I was watching like one of the Star Trek movies, like that kind of feeling. I don't know. And when I saw everyone say Fury Road, and I was like, no, to me it felt like Star Trek. But I mean, I could absolutely see where people are saying that. But yeah, I thought it was kind of interesting because one thing that I thought of is, to me, those aliens were not pirates as much as they were people. They seem to be more like natives trying to stop the Empire from stealing their stuff. The whatever it was called, Rhydonium. If you're a pirate, you're taking the stuff. They were trying to stop them and blow it up. And to the point where one of the officers, when they got back, said, "Oh, you guys are the first shipment to survive today." So that, to me, they're not pirates. They're not taking it. They are, I mean, literally, essentially, just trying to stop them from doing what they're doing. So I kind of looked at it like that. I mean, does it make a difference? No, but yeah, that whole scene was pretty cool. The whole time I was like, is Cara Dune and Fennec Shan gonna like start shooting people off these things? Like, where are they? And I was like, oh, they're going somewhere else. But yeah, Mando got his crap kicked in a couple times.
Well, he doesn't have his armor. He didn't have his stuff.
I know. And it's funny because there was a couple times where like he went to do something like he would normally do, and it would backfire because it wasn't his.
Well, yeah, the armor he was wearing was shattering because he's usually trying to deflect the stuff, and it's just breaking with them swinging things at them. The only counter I'll have about the whole native thing is that means it'd be a planet that has multiple species on it. Yeah. Which, I don't know if that's native to multiple planets or not, but we saw the real natives that they talked about in the before. Naboo
Naboo has humans.
Oh, yeah, I know. I'm just saying we've only seen a very few of them. Is what I'm saying.
Oh yeah. I mean, that little human settlement almost kind of just looked like its own little like a refugee camp type situation. So, but yeah, no. Although it was kind of dope seeing the aliens, like they were getting messed up, like going under the tires and.
Oh yeah,
like I was like,
just by Mando alone.
Yeah. So, but yeah.
Gio and Jacob, what do you guys think?
Go ahead, Jacob.
I like the action. Like the action was cool. Like it, this part of the episode wasn't the best part of it, but I enjoyed those action scenes. And man, there were so many of those. Every time he destroyed like two of those carts that were carrying them, just more would keep showing up, and it was crazy. And once that last batch of them showed up, I was like, oh crap! But obviously, somebody always comes in and shoots them out of the way. But it was fun. I enjoyed that scene a lot, and I like that because if he had his armor on, it would have been so much easier for him. I like that they showed him have to do this without his armor, so that was cool. And they were limited because they couldn't shoot at those trucks because they would have blown up. So it was a cool action scene.
Yeah, they couldn't even drive fast otherwise it would have blown up.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Although it looked like they were still driving pretty damn fast.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, they were. But once he slowed down, like the meter went down to like
yes,
from them heating up or something. Yeah.
Gio?
Yeah, I mean, you could look at this whole action sequence and think of it as just a throwaway action sequence, but there's actually a lot going on, and you guys touched on pretty much all of it. Mando doesn't have his armor, so he's fighting twice as hard. And then you have the TIE fighters saving their asses, and I miss the music, but if Jacob was right and it's like heroic music playing, I mean, what a juxtaposition, of the Empire is the good guys? Is Rick from it? You were trying to make the bad guys seem good, and it's just, I'm not gonna lie, I was happy to see the stormtroopers go get him, and they start shooting, and the TIE fighters are raining down. It's just like, okay, I like that. I mean, does it feel right? No, but hey, I liked it. So, yeah, it was pretty cool. And man, I just, you guys talking about it, I can't wait to watch the episode again. Wow.
There was also some good dialogue between Mayfield and Mando inside the actual transport.
That's a good point.
Something that we can probably touch on as well. Talking about how, and it's very similar to things we've heard in Star Wars before, but that whether it's the Republic or the Resistance or the Empire or the First Order or whoever it is, it's all just the same. It's all just the same. That people are run and people are fall in line. Essentially, is what he's saying, and it was interesting that he compared it to the Mandalorians as well. Still learning a little bit piece by piece about the history of the Mandos as we go on. And this might be the first time that Din is also hearing stuff like this too, because we know at this point his thoughts and things that are going on inside his head are very conflicted because of things that he's heard from Bo-Katan, things that he's heard from Boba, the fact that what he was raised as could be considered a lie to some. So he's hearing all these things from different people, and turning it into a Mandalorian thing was very interesting. But yeah, a little bit more characterization for Bill Burr's character, which is really cool because he seemed like a character that might have just been a throwaway, but they really gave him a lot to do in this episode. I think someone may have even said it, but he almost felt like the main character of the episode, alongside Mando. Their scenes are very similar, obviously. They're with one another, but I thought it was a great piece of dialogue set, great conversation, and it probably meant more. And I love the line of, I love the idea of him saying, well, you live by this rule of not taking off your helmet, but you just put on the stormtrooper helmet. So is it you're not taking off your helmet, or you can't show your face? Like, which one is it? And it's, again, blurring these lines of what Mando is supposed to be as a character, which we're obviously going to learn down the road.
More and more gray areas, I guess. And I'm jumping ahead a little bit, but when he said that, we're really the same, and then later on what is revealed with Bill Burr's character and what happens, correct me if I'm wrong, but the same thing happened to Mando, right? Like his people were slaughtered and he was taken away, and in a sense, Bill Burr, his whole division was wiped out, and like.
Well, if you're referring to Din as a child, then yes.
Yeah.
As a child, I mean, his entire family, friends, they were all demolished by the droid, and saved by the Mandos.
Yeah. I don't know. I found another, thing that kind of made them a little bit more of the same, than when the episode started. So, yeah, exactly.
All right, let's go ahead and shift gears from this action scene. Let's get into the real nitty gritty stuff because we get to this base. And this is where Mayfeld has to do his job, and he's got to get some coordinates here. And he walks into this mess hall, essentially, and he sees his commanding officer from when he was part of the Empire, and I don't have the actor's name, but he's played by this dude, and he's played perfectly by this dude. He's so great.
Such a scumbag.
Yeah, and we've seen him in so many other shows and televisions in this type of role, or shows and movies, excuse me, in this type of role. He plays him great, and then they so being that Bill Burr can't do it, Din steps up. He's like, okay, I'm going to go do it. And we see him take his mask off. We see Pedro Pascal. And as Bill Burr hinted at earlier inside the transport, look at you. You're doing things that are breaking your rules when you're desperate. And again, he is desperate in this situation to get the coordinates for Grogu. He takes his mask off to read his face to make sure he gets the coordinates and nothing goes haywire. I mean, very, very interesting stuff playing into the idea that he may not have the mask going forward for a lot of this stuff going into the future of Mandalorian. What do you guys think?
That was the most interesting thing of this episode, that he was willing to do this. And I think some people might have a problem with this, but I think the bottom line is, I mean, we all know this. He's showing us what he's willing to do to get Grogu back. And he's saying Grogu means more to him than not breaking the creed. So, and that's crazy. And I like that because that's what this show's about is Mando and Grogu. And it's it's, for lack of a better way of explaining it, it's a son or a dad trying to get his son back basically. And there's nothing he wouldn't do to do that. So I thought that was awesome.
Gio, you want to go?
Yeah, Bill Burr. We call him Brown Eyes.
Oh, that was hilarious.
Yeah.
But great improv. By
I
Bill
wouldn't be
Burr.
surprised if that was improvised by Bill Burr.
Yeah,
probably.
Probably.
And Mando does not know how to get out of a situation.
No. Well, and I'll say, and I want to make sure Gio and Brian talk about this, but I love the fact that he looked like a deer in headlights without his helmet off.
Mm-hmm.
He looked so uncomfortable without his helmet on.
He looked scared.
And I thought it was done brilliantly by Pedro Pascal as well. So I love that they added it because they could have easily not done that, but they made sure to add it to add some levity to the situation. So I thought it was really, really well. But Gio, continue.
No, actually, I didn't even think about that now. He really did look uncomfortable.
Here, I'll throw an image up. I mean, look at his face. He doesn't look, he doesn't look like a regular dude in this situation. I mean, this is kind of a scared face too,
Yeah, he doesn't exactly. He doesn't know what to do, and man, does Bill Burr, his character Mayfield, I'm gonna call him Bill Burr, but his character comes in clutch, man, and it's just like these two actually work well together, the two of them, and I think Mando is kind of realizing that himself, he's just like, wow, okay, well, I guess you are useful and, better than I thought you were, so I think Mando himself was pretty surprised by Bill Burr and his, his timing, his ability to improvise, so yeah, that was pretty cool. And that officer, that Imperial officer is just such a dick. I'm sure we'll talk more about
as
him.
we've seen in the Empire plenty of times.
Yeah, he plays such a great Empire officer. Brian, what about you?
Yeah, he looked very scared. This is not. It was something that's never happened to him before, ever. Oh, Jake didn't like my opinion so much he walked away.
He's like, I'm out.
Bathroom break.
Yeah. But yeah, no, he he just looked scared, and it's funny because it's Gio. What's really funny is that you keep messing up his name. I keep wanting to call him Blofeld from Bond.
Just combine the
I think you did that last season too.
Probably. This is where the chop started to come in for Burr. That he, absolutely. I mean, it's funny because Pedro Pascal didn't even really talk. He just kind of had to.
Well, and when Bill Burr went to him, he just kind of like nodded. He was like,
"Yeah." I like when he starts screaming at him and he's just doesn't do anything. That whole part was pretty good. That had me laughing. Where you call him brown eyes, and he's like, "Oh, you can't hear anything.
You gotta speak louder."
Yeah. So that part, that was. I like that part. Did not expect him to do some of those things that he did, taking off his helmet. I mean, more than one person has seen his face now. So it's like,
well, and it was also cool that it came back and Mayfield, again, going to the character, said, "I didn't see your face."
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like exactly. And that was a really good moment between the two of them. I'm sure we'll get to it here in a sec, but right after this scene, this Imperial officer comes up to Mando after Bill Burr had saved him. The three of them are talking, and he realizes that they are the ones that brought the transport in, wants to get them a drink. And we get this really cool scene between the three of them where they're talking about the history of the Empire. And Bill Burr brings up Project Cinder, which is massive for Star Wars fans.
Did you catch that the first time? Because you were talking or something. Or
no,
I
caught it. No, I caught it. Yeah, I 100% caught it. Yeah, the second Cinder popped up. So for those of you who don't know what Cinder is a for when Palpatine put in essentially a program that
fail-safe.
A fail-safe. That's a better way of saying it. Yes, he put in a fail-safe that when he dies and no longer is there, that there is a number of worlds and people and species that essentially get obliterated because they did not align with him while he was part of this world. So when he died, the Empire that was left did what was called Project Cinder, and they destroyed worlds.
Operation Cinder.
Yeah, Operation Cinder. You're correct.
Wow.
And this was shown in Battlefront 2, the story. This was also placed in a few novels. It's been mentioned multiple times in books. But we got confirmation that Bill Burr was actually essentially part of that in a way. And so was his commanding officer. And when he saw what was happening, and it turns out that he's not the only one, that when Operation Cinder went down, that a lot of what the Empire was, they fled. They didn't want to be a part of it anymore. And so Bill Burr was one of those. His entire unit got destroyed on a planet that was being destroyed by the Empire. And so a really cool history lesson right there for a lot of people who don't know what it is, because we haven't seen it in live action yet.
What did the guy call it? Sacrifices for the Empire?
Yes.
He's like, my whole
sacrificing for the greater good, I think is what he said.
Yeah, something like that. And I was like, dude.
Yeah, so it's a big deal because it is also something that we could see in the future in live action. Like that could be something we see because it's a very, very big deal in canon.
Yeah, I mean, it's literally the whole almost point of Battlefront 2. Like,
really?
That. Yeah. Oh, yeah. You're literally playing through.
And if I'm not mistaken, that's the reason why Iden Versio switches. Correct?
Yes.
The main character of the story, she flips to the rebellion because of Operation Cinder.
Yeah, it's literally like his last order to wipe out these planets that he just didn't like.
And it's miniature. It's essentially miniature Death Star tech is what they're using.
Yeah, and they're just wiping out these whole entire planets, and
that's what they're using the. Whatever they were transporting, they were using that to do it, weren't they? And because he says, "We thank you for delivering this," or whatever. We need it to continue that.
Yep.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, I'm looking up the exact title of it. It's the satellites in orbit of planets.
You played the Night King.
Really?
Oh, I didn't know that.
That's awesome. I could see that now. That not they mention it, but this scene at the table, where they were getting a drink, was the best scene of the episode. One of my favorite scenes in the whole series, to be honest. I loved this scene because, like Gio said, this is when Bill Burr kind of switched and was like, he was upset, and Mando even like shook his head at him, like, no, don't do this. And I was like, oh shoot, he's gonna shoot him. And I love that in movies or TV shows when like they know they're stuck in a situation where like they're going to have to shoot their way out if they do something. And then one of the characters can't control their temper and they do it. And I loved seeing that from Bill Burr. And then obviously they have to escape. So I really love this scene.
Did anybody else feel Inglourious Bastards in this moment?
Yes.
Oh, a little bit. Yeah.
Now that you mentioned it,
the restaurant scene.
Mm-hmm.
It's the way that it was playing out.
100%. It was funny to me because it's not the same, but I got the like vibe that you get kind of like when you watch Joker, where it's like you're slowly starting to see this person crack. I mean, obviously this was at a much faster pace, but you saw him go from like his like smooth talking to like he's slowly like,
well,
I'm
gonna
do this.
Well, he was mocking all those people that died, so
yeah,
he couldn't control it.
It was like, and you're holding your breath, like, oh, please don't do it, please don't do it, and he does it, and you're just like, oh, here we go.
Well, again, Mando is watching him, and he's also like, did he know this about Mayfield? I don't think he did, because he's just like Jesus, and
I don't know.
Yeah, it just got to the point where, Mayfield did what he had to do. And again, like I've never seen this kind of acting from Bill Burr. That's why I'm just so like Bill Burr, like this whole Fandalorian episode, because it's just like, wow, incredible direction and writing, absolutely. And it's just what you guys said also about the Project Cinder. I think it's called Cinder. You guys called it
Operation Cinder.
Yeah, I didn't know about that. So thank you. Like myself and the other casual viewers are like, you guys saved me a couple hours of gaming.
Yeah, and that's
it's a great game. So if you want to play it, you should definitely.
Yeah, Gio, I think I might even have it on the PS4 because I know you have my PS4.
I think I have it actually.
Yeah.
Talking about Battlefront 2, right?
It's the story. It's the story. Yeah. It's an incredible story. The story is incredible.
It's story-wise one of the better Star Wars stories.
Yeah, they didn't have a campaign in the first Battlefront, and it was a backlash of that game. And they were like, okay, well, we need to do a campaign, and they crushed it by creating this thing. And this is where the idea of the hologram Palpatine came into play as well. This is where this came from, and a lot of the stuff that was theorizing about Episode 9, it all came from this story. It's really, really good, and it would cover a lot of ground for people who don't read books, because it covers the Battle of Jakku, and it covers a lot of that stuff that is a lot of interesting stuff in Star Wars.
And if you've ever heard Inferno Squadron, that's where that comes from.
Yeah, you play as the Inferno Squadron. Yeah.
If you have it, you should play it. I have it, so I'll let you borrow it.
I'm pretty sure I got it on the PS. I'll look though. I'll double check.
So should casual viewers play the game or watch more Fandalorian Club to learn more about this?
Watch more Fandalorian Club. Definitely recommend that because I'm talking Battlefront 2 all day long. But honestly, because it seems like they're tying in a lot of this stuff, and if Project or Operation Cinder does come back into play, it would do you a lot of service to know what it is and to really understand the ins and outs of it. We can talk about it as much as we can, but actually looking at it go down in that game is an option that I would recommend. If you're not a gamer, I guarantee you someone had actually clipped out the story.
You can
watch it online as a movie, and that there's an option for you as well. And so, but I definitely recommend, because it didn't just get dropped for no reason. It's going to come back into play at some point.
Yeah, and was this part of Palpatine's contingency plan that was introduced?
That was the word I was looking for.
Novels.
Yeah. It's literally that was his his contingency.
So basically, Mandalorian's doing what we wanted the sequel trilogy to do, which is include these little canon pieces that they've been introducing us to. And I get it; they don't really have time in the movies to do that stuff, but we've already seen it several times on The Mandalorian, bringing stuff from the outside canon in. So I think they're going to do that in all of their shows. Little pieces
it seems like it. I mean, after the announcement we got yesterday, it definitely seems like that a lot of that is going to be coming down the line.
Well, I mean, I'm looking at places it's appeared. It's been in multiple comics, multiple books, the Battlefront 2, which is literally like the whole point of the game, and then now this.
This is the only live action thing it's been in.
Yeah. So.
And it was just mentioned basically so far.
Yeah. So, honestly, it's not even that, like, you could have thought they just made it up to say something to give Bill Burr's thing, but it has a significance. So,
and this all happened after Palpatine died. Like, after the Empire fell, this all happened after the Empire fell. So,
I believe it was
after Palpatine died.
Yeah. It's a pretty big deal.
After he poofed.
Yeah, after he poofed. There you go. Okay, let's go ahead and shift gears real quick. After this scene went down, we see obviously a little bit of a shootout. We see some cool stuff happen with Mayfield and Din. They're trying to escape. They get up on the roof. They climb their way out. We see Cara and Fennec sniping the hell out of some troopers from a long distance away, never missing, which is awesome to see. And then we see this awesome stuff too.
Yes.
Slave One comes to the rescue and grabs Din and Mayfield. And we see that Mayfield had shot. You can see it in the background there. Mayfield shoots the facility, and it blows up.
That he did that.
Yeah, definitely. It's kind of like a personal thing for him. And so that's blowing up, and TIE fighters are chasing after Slave One. And I don't have an image of it, but we see the long-awaited return of the famous weapon from Jango Fett and Attack of the Clones.
Dude, I audibly screamed when he did that. I lost my. That was so awesome.
That was my wow.
Yeah, that might have been honestly the thing I was most excited for.
When you see the bay door open, you're like, "Oh my god, it's happening!"
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah,
it was so cool. And the thing is, it was just we got to see it so clearly. You know, it wasn't just a bunch of them blowing up rocks in the space. It was boom. It was so cool.
I'm a sucker.
Seismic charge is what it's called. There you go.
For these silent and then boom noises, like in Last Jedi, Attack of the Clones, where it's did my TV go out? And then you're just so cool.
Man of Steel.
So cool. Yeah. I remember people freaking out for Last Jedi, oh no, it went out. The thing, and all of a sudden it's nope. But yeah, I got, honestly, I think I got more excited for that stupid little bomb than I did anything else. So
I was watching that scene. I'm like, oh my god, we're about to see the Slave One go at some TIE fighters. The seismic charge never came across my mind. No, never came across my mind.
I was waiting for his two little guns to turn around and him just to be blasted out.
True too. I wanted to see. I mean, I'm sure we're going to see a dogfight with it at some point, but that's what I was expecting to see. Very much like what they did with Chapter 4 and the Razor Crest. But yeah, I never in a million years would have thought we would have seen a seismic charge again.
Yeah, no, not coming off of the Slave One. I mean, yeah, I mean that was a little Easter egg tease for all of us.
Oh, it was so great, and the Star Wars fans everywhere rejoiced. They just rejoiced.
I think we're I know we're so excited about Boba Fett's return, but guys, Boba Fett is just here and in the story and just badass. And
he barely did anything this episode, and we're freaking out about it.
I know, but
he was just in the background all episode long. That's it.
And it's perfect because you don't want him to come in and
happen. This episode is a paint job.
You don't want him to come in and take over the show, but he's a perfect complimentary piece, and it's so cool. It's freaking Boba Fett, and I told you guys I didn't want them to bring him back, and I'm loving it now that they did.
Yeah, look at what you poor naive soul, you.
All right, let's go ahead and get to the last scene. So after everything is good with the crew, and Mayfield gets off, Cara Dune lets him off, and she plays this whole coy thing of like, oh, he died in the explosion of the facility, etc., etc. So he is off doing his own thing, which does leave open the possibility.
I love that, by the way. That was cool.
Yeah, I will say maybe a little too quick, but I like that it happened.
Yeah.
I know a lot of people are also saying that maybe we see him back in something like Rangers of the New Republic.
I would love that.
If that does tie into it somehow. But the big deal that we want to talk about is the very, very end of this episode where we finally get onto Moff Gideon's ship. And this is the ending of the episode here. And we see this hologram file from Din. What a great moment this is, because it's obviously setting up what's to come in the next episode, the ultimate showdown. I've also seen a lot of people online, conversations and stuff about, oh, why did he reveal his plan, or why is he saying that he's coming or whatever? Because Din doesn't care, and I feel like Gideon knows already that it's going to happen because he has Grogu. But when he says the line, "He matters more to me than you will ever know," oh,
that was so good,
so good. It's like, oh, a dad just pulling at the heartstrings.
Yeah.
Amazing.
He's just like, oh, that's my boy. That's your boy.
That's my boy, Blue. That's my boy.
Yeah. Oh, goodness. I liked that scene because it's funny because there was no acting coming from Mandalorian. It's literally just a projector of him and then hearing his voice. So I like how he used the tone. I mean, his voice is the acting almost for everything. But I love a good dramatic cape turn, like Gideon did when he's staring out, and then he's like General or Moff or whatever, and he just flings the cape around, and yeah,
a lot of people are saying that is Din's Liam Neeson moment.
Oh, yeah, taken. I have a certain set of skills. So,
well, he's playing on what Moff Gideon said to him at the end of
last season. Yes.
Yeah.
And they replayed that at the beginning. So I man, this is crazy. Yeah. He's like, I think somebody mentioned John Wick or did somebody mention John Wick in the chat?
Yes, I think so. I believe so.
They should be scared, man. They got Boba Fett and Mando coming after them, man. I don't even think he knows that Boba Fett's coming after them too. So, I'm wondering, like, we've never seen Moff Gideon fight, right? Like, do we think he's a capable fighter on his own? Because we're gonna see Mando and Moff Gideon go toe to toe with the spear, and that's what's coming down to. Yep, John Wick.
I don't think he got the Darksaber by being a little.
That's
bitch.
A good point.
Like,
a good point.
I mean, he could have easily just had a little thing. A squad go out and get him, go get it or something. But I'm starting to think that he's kind of badass. Like,
I hope so, because otherwise he doesn't stand a chance against Mando. But
yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited.
So let's, or Gio, thoughts on this real quick before we move on.
It kind of confirms, or even further confirms for me, that Grogu is going to stay with Mando and not leave with the Jedi, as we've talked about in previous episodes, because of what Grogu means to Mando now, and their relationship. So I could be wrong, but I'm just like, for me, it's, if I had to put money on it, I'm putting money now that Grogu doesn't go down the path of the Jedi and sticks around with Mando for like 5 more seasons.
As long as I don't get just go, just leave, like that type crap where he's trying to get rid of him, and like, that I would cry. I would freaking cry. If, like, what is it? I think it's like Fox and the Hound or something, where they put the fox out and he's just like, just go. I would be like,
oh yeah, you're right. You are right. Yeah.
So the
Hound says it to the fox. Yes.
That would kill me. Like, that would literally kill me. I could think of a few other people that would kill too, but I still think he's gonna stay with him. Nothing has swayed that for me.
Did anybody else get a feeling that as badass as this scene was, does anybody feel like they might end on a bad note to where Grogu actually stays with Gideon after the end of this season? That he doesn't get him back?
I've still thought that, yeah.
Because there is only one episode left. They're only going to get one chance at getting Grogu back. I tend to think that chance is going to fail.
Yeah,
fair point.
I mean, you got Gideon, a whole bunch of stormtroopers. Like, how many dark troopers as well? Like,
we don't exactly know. There's at least
10.
Yeah, well, I was going to say at least 20. I would think.
No,
the way that hanger,
that was a long hanger. Yeah,
2 rows of them,
and there was 2, one on each side.
Yeah.
I don't see. I mean, hey, Boba Fett is badass, Mando badass. They're all badass, but I don't see how you get past that.
Because I'm thinking to myself, with one episode left, I don't see Cobb Vanth coming back this season. I don't see Bo-Katan coming back this season. I see that happening next season when the full-on siege to get him back happens. And I feel like the Boba, Fennec, Din, Cara Dune rescue is going to fail, and that's how the season's going to end. That's kind of what I'm thinking.
Probably. I would lean more towards that.
But who dies?
Cara Dune.
Oh well.
Is she even going to go with them, do you think?
That's the big question. I'm not sure.
I think it's just going to be...
She's with them right now. She is with them currently. So
actually, she might go. But
that actually shocked me that she was there. Because the way she made it seem like she was like, I can't do that. I have a different life now. And then she just goes out on the mission. I'm like, oh, well.
The second he said they got the kid, she's like, oh. Like
well, that's why I think she might go with them because, like, she's like everything. I got to do anything to get that kid back. But I never thought about. I always assumed he was going to get Grogu back now, but I'm not sure. That would be very devastating for viewers. Like, people they're gonna have to wait another year at least until do we even get Mandalorian season 3 a year from now? Who knows?
It was confirmed for Christmas of next year.
Okay, so that's fine.
Christmas. That's a full year.
Like, that's when episode 1 airs.
They said Christmas 2021. Guys, keep in mind we have Andor. We have all this.
I don't care.
We have all of the 2020 movies that were pushed to 2021.
I don't care.
The thing is, there's going to be
leave us on a nasty cliffhanger.
Just pump the brakes.
There's going to be a storyline of Bo-Katan getting the Darksaber back. So Moff Gideon's not going to die.
No.
So because of
die
that,
in season 3. He'll die in season 3.
They're putting that aside. So does he get Grogu? I think he gets Grogu back. Somehow.
I don't think he does. I think it ends on the Empire Strikes Back note and it ends dark.
Because I feel like episode 6 was that, like him losing Grogu, and like that was like the Empire Strikes Back episode to me. I think he gets him back. I think that's too dark, honestly, to end on.
That's the best way to do it, Jacob. Send everyone into the holidays with Baby Yoda nowhere to be found.
But also, I also think we're gonna see Grogu make the decision to stay with Din. So maybe when does that happen? Not in this episode. Not in.
I don't think it happens this season either. I think it's gonna wait till next year.
Possibly.
I think it happens next year.
That definitely. But
there are so many story threads that need to be wrapped up that it can't do it in one episode. It just can't.
Does it make you guys a little bit worried about this last episode? Like, because
if it doesn't wrap up anything, that's fine, because that's like a typical TV series where they leave stuff open for the next season. Especially over the last 10 years, there's been a lot of shows that do cliffhangers and make you wait and stuff like that. But as long as they satisfy us with enough things like a showdown between Din and Gideon, like that needs to happen this season now. After what just happened this episode, that needs to happen this season, at least the first encounter between the two of them. And then you go forward from that. I'm not worried about it because we already know we're getting to season 3, and it already feels like it's a continuation of what's happening this season anyway.
Yeah. We'll see.
So what?
There's a lot that needs to happen. Hopefully,
what is the resolution then in this because every season has to have like a climax. Like, what is the climax of this season?
I mean,
he doesn't.
Getting
It's not him getting Grogu back.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I think the climax of the season is them failing, and Din realizing that he needs to do something a little bit different.
And the Jedi shows up.
no.
That, or it's Bo-Katan, or maybe Ahsoka is involved. I don't know, but it's who knows. I mean,
So, do you think Boba Fett dies?
I still think Boba Fett dies.
Love how Jake so easily kills off his favorite character. So easily.
Hey, Jon Favreau gets to do it, if that makes sense, I guess.
Oh yeah,
Okay, you know what? I'll backtrack on that. Boba Fett dies if Grogu is saved.
That would make sense. Otherwise,
if
nothing?
Grogu isn't saved, Boba doesn't die until next season.
That's possible. I could see
That's
that.
fair.
Yeah, they might be leaving us on a cliffhanger, to be honest.
I would love it. Give it to me.
Is the runtime of the season finale confirmed? How long it's going to be? The episode?
They don't reveal it till like the day before. Yeah. I don't know.
I never know until I start the
I
episode.
thought you guys might have.
Yeah, I don't like last night. I didn't know what the runtime was until after I finished it. Like I had no idea.
It'll be like, I think it'll be like an hour.
I hope so.
That'd be cool.
Hour 20. Come on.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Classic Geo move.
If it's an hour 20, he's getting Grogu back.
yes.
I'll tell you that.
If it's that long, he's getting Grogu back for sure.
4 hours. Why not?
All right. Well, on that note, gentlemen, any final thoughts on The Believer and going into the final episode of the season next week with Chapter 16?
Ready for this finale.
Bill Burr.
Yeah, I'm just curious. Like, I don't know what's gonna happen, and that's exciting.
Yeah.
Same.
That is
Ditto.
true.
All right. Well, thank you guys. This has been this week's episode of the Fandalorian Club. Before you get out of here, just make sure you guys are joining us every Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific right here on the channel for the next few weeks at least. Excuse me. Oh, my goodness. We'll be doing the Fandalorian Club. We'll be doing a review next week on the final episode. And then we'll be doing a full spoiler review. God, she's laughing at me, guys. I'm sorry.
We got to try to get Keith on the full spoiler review.
So we're going to do something. We are going to try and do something next week after the final episode where the five of us are talking about it, spoiler review style. We're going to break down the entire season, especially with Keith because he hasn't been able to do anything with us Fando-wise because we do it so early. But we will definitely be getting on to do that. So join us next week on Friday, and then look out for everything coming after that for a full spoiler review breakdown, and then probably some preview stuff going forward, talking about all the other series that are coming as well. So for the whole crew here, make sure you guys are checking out Fando. Make sure you guys are checking out Apocaflix now, Tuesdays and Thursdays, following us on all of our personal channels. That is Jacob. That is Gio. That is Brian. I am Jake, and we are Apocaflix Movies. So to everyone, thank you guys so much for watching, and we will see you guys next week. May the Force be with you.